Holy shit. Are you seeing this? Well, I guess I'm in the big leagues now. With my sprawling new fan base, I should do something special. Maybe I'll try doing a Let's Play. So this is Far Cry 3 Blood Dragon, and it's a good game. It kind of speaks for itself, you know? No, I don't think I have the energy for that. No. You want a tour of my game space? Yeah, so this is the crib, so to speak, at least for the past few weeks. It's a pretty sweet setup, though. I got some of this stuff, some of these. It's usually not this clean. That's some art or something. I don't know. For now, I might just stick to talking about games in a heavily scripted fashion. Let's find a game to play. Oh, would you look at this game? I didn't know this was here. I'm kidding, I knew it was there. Unintentionally working my way through games penned by Jonathan Boakes, I played 2008's The Lost Crown, a third-person horror adventure title that I originally found in a Big Lots for $6. I like to think I saved it. If you're playing anything released by Boakes' studio Darkling Room, you know you're in for a ghost story. That's his jam, and this game is a shining example of that. This time, he spins off a new story with a previously seen character in Darkfall. Nigel Danvers is a ghost hunter in the employ of the mysterious Haddon Corporation. The story kicks off with Nigel Danvers on the run from Haddon after hacking into their computers and taking some sensitive documents that seem to be concerning the events of Darkfall. Possibly, it's never really expressly said. Either way, Nigel flees as far as a train takes him, with two Haddon cronies in pursuit. By chance, Nigel stumbles into Saxton, a small seaside town with a storied and mysterious past. Nigel decides to stick around, at least until the whole Haddon thing blows over. It's pretty apparent from the get-go that Saxton is an odd place. It's a little stuck out of time, and a lot of its inhabitants speak in very vague, cryptic terms.
What is that? In the water?
A tree stump, I think. Dark and shapeless. It could almost be a small body, couldn't it?
I'm Nigel, by the way.
Yes, Mr. Danvers, I'm sure you are.
Am I expected?
Everyone's kind of creepy, and everyone knows Nigel's name before he ever arrived in town. At this point, I'm already guessing a possible twist ending. I can kind of guess where this is going to go.
It's all a dream.
But this doesn't actually seem to have any significance other than that these people are kind of creepy. The only other character that doesn't seem like some kind of Amish ghost is Lucy Rubens, who arrives on the same train as Nigel, with her own mysterious agenda. He takes up residence in a rundown cottage on the harbor that the locals seem to be unnerved by.
Harbour cottage?
Well, yes. Why? What's wrong?
You tell me. Everything okay in there, is it?
I mean, take a look at this place. I would have set one foot in there and been like, yeah, they got ghosts in there. Wait. I just noticed something. Just now from rewatching this. Okay, so Lucy is surprised to hear that Nigel is staying in Harbour Cottage.
Harbour cottage?
Well, yes.
But Lucy leaves a note at Harbour Cottage for Nigel without knowing he lives there? This game has some length to it, but it doesn't really feel like one continuous narrative. In fact, the whole setup with Haddon and Nigel being on the run is resolved in the first 15 minutes or so, when he literally calls to apologize and Haddon's like, hey, while you're there, you want to do some ghost stuff? And Nigel's like, yeah, alright.
I'm forgiven for snooping.
What follows are some ghostly encounters throughout Saxton, all sort of revolving around the central legend of a lost treasure. Nigel is very interested in this treasure. In fact, he seems much more psyched by the prospect of finding treasure than the mountains of irrefutable evidence of the supernatural he comes across.
Treasure? Perhaps my time here would be entirely wasted. I'm keen to find the treasure. Where is the treasure?
This fog hides many things.
Like treasure?
Lucy plays the Scully to Nigel's Mulder for a little while, and her skepticism leads Nigel to lash out like a clingy, jaded lover.
So all this has been a waste of time?
Nigel, you have to understand that...
I understand. Good night, Lucy.
I don't really get why Lucy sticks around. This is usually the point where most women get creeped out with me and block me on Facebook. But like on my side, I send you a text and you don't respond, and how do I know you're okay? Somebody's got to keep an eye on you. The story covers the span of several days in Saxton and covers a lot of areas and hauntings. Some of them are genuinely interesting and maybe even moving. Others are pretty forgettable and mostly don't have any power or emotional weight to them. The only moment which managed to leave a mark on me, which isn't hard, was Nancy, a little girl ghost in a nearby church. The idea of her story is actually heartbreaking, and it's the only ghost Nigel has a lucid, in-depth conversation with.
Oh, you scared me, mister. I thought you were my brother, Timmy. We're playing hide and seek. Want to join in?
Maybe it's the acting, maybe it's the writing, but the characters, and there are a lot of them, certainly more than any other Darkling Room game, are just not alive in any way, which only furthered my incorrect theory that this was some kind of hallucinatory ghost town. Nigel befriends Nandy Noah, and I don't, after playing the whole game, I don't get Nandy Noah. I don't know what she was doing this whole time. I don't know what anything she says means. She was cryptic and weird up until the end.
You may change it all. Time will tell.
Professor Hardacre is just an asshole throughout the entire game. There's no redeeming qualities to him.
Stay away from my stuff, Danvers. Get lost, Danvers. Danvers!
I feel like I'm mirroring my feelings about Darkfall, but the Lost Crown's best character is Saxton. It's the only thing that seems to have been painstakingly thought out and crafted. There had to have been a lot of work put into the history and the atmosphere of this place, to the point where in this fictional town, there's a museum of the town with tons of weird information and backstory and live-action video of places that inspired Saxton. If only there was a fraction of that care put into the characters and their development. I like the place, I like exploring it. I don't like endless, unenthusiastic expository dialogue. Characters I don't care about. There's a lot of ambition in this game. Darkfall and Barrow Hill are small games with one tiny area and a very linear purpose. The Lost Crown has a lot of ideas, a lot of bigger ideas, but didn't really need a lot of them. It just needed more, I don't know, emotion, humanity. I gotta connect with these people in some way, right? I should want Nigel to achieve his goals, but all this guy wants is treasure. That's a little selfish. Look, he just stole Mr. Gruel's book about treasure or whatever. I take it back. I cared a lot more about this guy. This guy I can relate to, and I empathize with him strongly. This game should have been about him. Nigel spent all this time looking for the treasure out there, and he didn't realize the treasure that was right beside him the whole time. This is definitely one of the easier titles in the genre, with only a few moments that require leaps of clicking, so to speak. The majority of the puzzles are solvable just by tinkering with them, and nothing really struck me as difficult. There are even parts with these Highlights magazine back of a cereal box level puzzles, where you have to spot the differences between two images.
But what are the differences?
There is something about doing these that makes me slightly embarrassed to be doing them. It's like if somebody walked in on me, I don't know, doing this. There's even my favorite thing I don't like. Recipes! I do not like these. I don't want to cook food I don't get to eat. Everything that needs to be accomplished in a day is written down in your notes, so you're rarely at a loss as to where to go. And if the story ever deviates from your itinerary, it corrals you into the right direction anyway. This is probably nice
for fucking casuals,
but hardcore adventurers might need something more. Nigel is very slow, and getting around is sometimes tiring because even though you can double click to move to the next scene, you still have to wait for Nigel to saunter into the shot. This is also another situation where the dialogue didn't really need to be interacted with, because you need to exhaust every option anyway. It even tells you to in the manual, so it makes picking every dialogue option pointless. I think they just knew that if you didn't do anything through all this dialogue, people would tune out. There's a big emphasis on the ghost hunting tools sent to you by Haddon. The creator even spent some time with real ghost hunters in order to research the role of a professional ghost hunter. It's nothing surprising. You got a night vision camera, a modified voice recorder for EVP, an EMF reader, and a camera that looks like a basic digital camera, but produces, like, Polaroid copies instantly. All these tools are essential at least once throughout the game, so it's important to test them all out when appropriate. Don't worry, you'll know. The ghosts will tell you when something is important. You'll mostly be using the camera, especially in dark areas, where, without a camera, Nigel nopes the fuck out. These sequences appropriately go first person, but don't utilize it for scares all that often. Hey, is that like a rock or something? Ah, fuck! On a base adventure game level, it's okay. I mean, it's playable. It's just not groundbreaking, and some of it is downright not very good. It makes me wonder if the developers play a great deal of other games, because this is something that should be kind of standard. I shouldn't have anything to say on how to control a point-and-click adventure game, right? The way you play it is in the title of the genre. You got 2 words to describe how to play your game. How do you fuck that up? The Lost Crown's aesthetic stands out from others with its monochromatic style, with occasional splashes of color. Some scenes have dark vignettes around the borders, and there are at least 2 moments where the screen is sort of torn like a photo. I like these effects, but they don't really have any significance and they don't appear often enough to be intentional. The environments are pieced together out of pre-rendered graphics and real photos of Saxton's inspiration, a town called Polperro in Cornwall, England. The process is documented through the developer's website, and it's pretty cool. Mr. Boakes wanted to create a melancholy pastoral lament, which I again took as a way of placing importance on Saxton as a place or an idea. If you look at Polperro, before the veneer of graphics and spookiness, it's clearly an old place, but it's also much more modernized than we'd like to imagine it. There's probably more trash and boats and annoying tourists than mystery. I get the appeal of a place like Saxton. If ever there were to be a place where ghosts would exist, it would be a place like that. There's nothing really tough to look at in this game. The environments are great, the character models are passable, if a little stiff and robotic. The way Nigel knocks on doors is pretty amusing. This is the best way to do this. None of this really needs to look better to improve the game's emotional impact. I've been moved by less. There is some nice work with sound on display. Some areas have a pretty unsettling atmosphere. The music is sort of interesting, but it often feels mismatched and repeated too many times. Like the clip they chose was a little too short, so they just kind of loop it over and over again. The dialogue and its voice acting is probably the most bothersome part of the game for me, because even if the dialogue was a little better, it's performed without personality.
I'm a writer, a journalist for the local rag.
Jonathan Boakes tackles more than one character in this game, and it's obvious which ones are him, because they go for it a little more than the others. He's certainly trying more, and that's admirable.
Deep. Most folk have forgotten this church were here.
To add to all this, a lot of lines are heavily recycled, so at many times throughout you'll hear dialogue you've already heard passed off to different scenes. It is always noticeable.
Run along, boy, and play with the crabs. Run along, boy, and play with the crabs.
You may change it all. Time will tell. You may change it all. Time will tell.
There's even dialogue used for other games. In the Celtic Corner Store, the astrologist on the radio is the same recording as the one in Barrow Hill.
The ambitious projects you have embarked upon will set you free.
To add to all this, a lot of lines are heavily recycled, so at many times throughout you'll hear dialogue you've already heard. The Lost Crown is an ambitious labor of love, and there is a lot to appreciate in it. There are also a lot of amateurish choices that might have been avoided through collaboration with other creators. I know Boakes collaborated with the creators of Scratches, which was way more effective than this game. The fact that it's so personal and produced by one vision might have been detrimental to it. The story shows promise of rich emotion and subtle scares, but it more often squanders these opportunities. Characters are plenty, but they don't add enough for how much time you have to spend listening to them. It runs pretty long, and I ended up taking a lot of breaks from playing just because it kind of kept going. After this game's release, an epilogue of sorts was created to tease the planned sequel called Black and Rock. If this comes to fruition, I hope Nigel and Lucy's relationship gets some focus and development because it seemed pretty stale in this initial game. I don't know what these guys see in each other. I mean, why is this guy better than me? What does he have that I don't? Money? Is it money? I don't have that. The gameplay is alternately patronizingly simple and confusingly ambiguous, with little variation. It's got a unique look with a mix of photos and graphics and some good ghostly and ethereal atmospheres. I have played this more than once, and after this last time, I don't think I'd revisit it. That's not to say I wouldn't be psyched for a new adventure with these characters. What do you think, I got like something else to do? Note to self, Just put yourself out there. You can't hide forever.
They're all clones.